Hello and welcome to Teletour. My name is Igor Rosen. I'm a tour guide in Normandy for a Normandy tour, and I will present you today the Normandy American Cemetery at Colleville-sur-Mer. The Normandy American Cemetery was created in 1945 to be a permanent burial place for more than 9,388 American soldiers who fought in the battle in Normandy and also in Europe. This cemetery is the permanent cemetery for these boys. Among them, 25% died on D-Day. The average age of the soldiers at the Normandy American Cemetery is 22 years old. It's a site managed by the American Battle and Monument Commission under the order of the US Congress. So it's a site which is located in France, of course. It's a free lease from France to the US. Many people think that this is US soil. No, it is French soil, but completely managed by US government. The Normandy American Cemetery employs 20 gardeners, 12 guides, and 12 guards also. So it's run a little bit like an embassy. It's perfectly manicured, and the garden, the lawn are absolutely clean. The rope is there also to prevent the grass from being walked too much. As I told you, there are 9,388 American soldiers buried here. The ages go from 17 to 61. The vast majority are around 18, 20. The rank, of course, are private and private first class for most of them. Among them is also one woman. I'll walk by this lady, Elizabeth Richardson. She got flowers recently. Elizabeth Richardson was from Indiana, and she got killed on July 25th, 1945, close between Rouen and Évreux. Her plane was flying, and just a crash, a stupid crash. So 2 months after the end of the war, Elizabeth, that's her cross here with the flowers and the American flag, Elizabeth died. She was 27 years old. She is one of the 4 women of the Normandy American Cemetery. There are at the Normandy American Cemetery also 45 sets of brothers. There is also a father and his son. Among the brothers, one set of brothers is really famous. It's the Nylon brothers, which gave the inspiration for the movie, for the Steven Spielberg movie, Saving Private Ryan. You have also at the Normandy American Cemetery 3 medals of honor and 3 generals. Among the generals and medals of honor is Ted Roosevelt Jr., the son of President Teddy Roosevelt. He is laying next to his brother, Quentin Roosevelt. Quentin Roosevelt, who did not fight in World War II or in Normandy, but who died in the First World War. Because he's a Roosevelt, the US Congress accepted to have the 2 brothers reunited after her death. Well, the idea of the crosses, as you see I'm slowing down to show you that, is that the crosses are all pointing to the west, and you don't see names on the other side. On this side, you will see it on the other way when I will show you. All pointing west, and the names also pointing west, so that when the soul gets up and goes back home to the US, they all know where to go. West, straight. The trees, many oak trees, many flowers, were added slowly from the 1960s to improve the landscape, to make it nicer, and also to drain the grass, because until recently it was allowed to walk on the grass everywhere. And of course, with the popularity of Saving Private Ryan, late 90s, and we're very, very busy at the cemetery. And we have some important events here, like last year, the 75th anniversary. 75th anniversary of D-Day. In front of you here, you can see a chapel. This chapel was made so that people can pray, and people from all religion. So it's a chapel combining together the Star of David and the Christian cross. A small chapel, really small chapel, with the flags of the US, France, Canada, Great Britain. On this location right here is the grave of Billy Harris, a pilot from Texas, who got killed on July 17th, 1944. He was married to a woman called Peggy. They got married 6 weeks before he went to war. And Peggy, unfortunately, waited all her life. She got the information that Billy was killed in action only in 2002. She kept waiting faithfully. She did not remarry, did not have kids. It was way too late when she got the information. And she stayed in the same house until 2 years ago. So Peggy is still alive, she's the last widow. As the boys buried here are quite young, very few of them had a wife or kids. So Billy is one of the very few with a wife. By this way are the graves of Colonel Reed and his son. Colonel Reed was leading the 175th Infantry Regiment, and his son, Ollie Reed, First Lieutenant Reed, was fighting in Italy, close to Rome, against the Italians and the Germans in Italy. And he got killed at the beginning of July 44, his father by the end of July. The sad thing is that the wife of Colonel Reed and the wife of Ollie Reed Jr. were at home together. Ollie Reed Jr. had a baby also, and his wife and his mother received a telegram on the same day, the very same day. The two wives lost their husbands. Very sad. The Normandy American Cemetery covers 175 acres, and the field was leased for free from the French government to US just after the war. So the crosses you can see and you just saw are made out of marble from Carrare. But at the beginning, these crosses were made out of wood, just simple wood painted white. The Normandy American Cemetery is not the only one for American soldiers. There is another American cemetery, but this one is close to Mont Saint-Michel in St. James. There, over 4,000 American soldiers are buried. And if you add the number of soldiers buried here and at St. James, it's only 40% of the casualties of Normandy, because 60% of the casualties of Normandy are buried back home in the US. The families had the choice always to have the body buried here at Normandy or in the US at Arlington or in the hometown. You see, I'm standing behind the chapel and you can clearly see a dove, a falling dove, the Star of David and the Christian cross, very symbolic of peace, of the reunion of the religions here. Voilà. You will see at the Normandy American Cemetery some Stars of David, just 176 Stars of David. Just 176, there should be much more, you would say. Yes, very few, because many Jewish soldiers decided to change religion on the dog tag just before going at war, because they knew that if captured, they would survive very little with a Star of David. So they decided to change religion. And also because the Jewish families wanted to have the bodies back home as quickly as possible, because a Jewish burial should take place right after a death. Yeah. You can see here one Star of David surrounded by Christian crosses. There is no section for Jewish soldiers or Christian. They are all together. It's very important not to put any division. But back then there was no option for a Muslim, a Buddhist, or a atheist or something else. It was either a Christian or a Jewish. There are also 459 unknown soldiers which could not be identified properly after the war, because the body was really damaged, the face was in terrible condition, no ID, no dog tag found, so that's why 459 unknown soldiers. There is also at the Normandy American Cemetery a wall with the missing in action. On this wall, 1,557 missing soldiers. Voilà. It's also possible to get close to the crosses if you have a relative buried at the cemetery. So you contact a guide, or directly you can contact the cemetery, and then a guide from the cemetery will escort you to the grave, and then you have the right to stay by the grave. The guides always take some sand from Omaha Beach from the day and put the sand on the letters, so that the letters of the soldiers shine as if he was a Medal of Honor, as if it was gold. Because you will see, as I'll walk on the other side, you will see the names on the crosses. The statues in front of me there, on the left, it represents the US mothers and the sadness, the grief, the tears of the US mom who lost her husband, her son, and on the right side, it's a French mother who lost also so many boys for France and freedom. Well, this way was the way from which the US soldiers deceased were brought to this cemetery from the temporary cemetery, which was at that time right in front of Omaha Beach. A small temporary cemetery for just 1,500 men. There were at the beginning many temporary cemeteries all over Normandy for Americans, for Germans, for Canadians, and even at the beginning they were all together. Sometimes there was a field, casualties from different nationalities, and put together. Voilà. So you can see here the French mother holding the rooster, symbol of France, and on the left side the American mother holding a hawk, symbol of United States. Voilà. The Normandy American Cemetery also has a few soldiers, not from the US, but with different nationalities. You have a dozen non-US citizens, but they fought under the US banner, they fought for the US. By getting closer this way, you may be able to see the names on the crosses. So names facing west, as I told you. On the crosses you can see first name, last name, rank, division, battalion, and of course the date of death. There is no mention of the date of birth, but we know from military certificates that on an average there were 22 here, 22 average age. Standing here on this plot, plot A, is buried Elmer Norval Carter from Virginia. He left home a wife and 2 boys. He was a general practitioner in New Jersey and decided to enlist to go in the war in Europe because he saw that he would be even more useful than what he did as a general practitioner. And after a few days in Normandy, he got killed, ambushed by Germans trying to save the life of a young man. He eventually saved the life of the young boy, but he got killed. His wife, Fernie, received a letter which was not supposed to be given to her but to a friend, but she received it anyway, in which Elmer was saying that he was very happy to be put on the front line. He had promised his wife that he would avoid being in very dangerous places. As all surgeons, they were 1 hour away from the line of combat. On the line of combat, medics gave morphine, did what they could, and then they were sent to hospitals which were a maximum an hour away from the line of combat. He asked to be put closer to the line of combat, and that's how he got killed. It's one of the few fathers of the Normandy American Cemetery. In front of the roses over there is buried Frank Daniel Peregory from Utah. Frank Peregory was in the 5th Ranger Battalion in reinforcement to the 2nd Ranger Battalion after the assault on the Point du Hoc. And after the assault on the Point du Hoc with the 2nd Ranger, he came there to help them. He got killed, but he was able to save the life of 5 men from the 2nd Ranger Battalion. Frank Peregory received the Medal of Honor. You may be able to see his cross shining with golden letters. So he's one of the 3 Medals of Honor of the cemetery. Well, the other one is Jimmy Montis. I told you about Jimmy Montis in another video of Omaha Beach. And the 3rd one is Ted Roosevelt Jr., son of President Roosevelt. Ted Roosevelt received the Medal of Honor for landing on the first wave on Utah. And as a general and as a Roosevelt, he was not supposed. Everyone told him to avoid to land, that he didn't have to do it, but he really wanted. So all the men here, really very, very brave men who gave their life for us, for France, and for me, so that we can be free today. So I hope you enjoy the tour, and I hope to see you very soon on another tour with Teletour. Let's Teletour. See you.